All right, Drew. Thanks for doing the show, man. It was kind of crazy. I wasn't expecting to do a podcast tonight. I reached out to you like, hey, can you do it tonight? I'm like, I don't have a reason why I can't, but yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. You're in Florida. Just got through 2 days of hard fishing. How are you doing? You sunburned or what?
A little bit, man. Not much. Just a little bit on my nose. See, I spent most of my first day hiking through the swamp, and so I
I
didn't really get
saw
any
that.
sun, man. Yeah, so just in the woods. So not much sun on that swamp out there.
Yeah.
Pretty thick forest.
You getting anyone to check you for ticks or what?
Yeah, I should. See, that's the reason why I was able to do this so quick. My wife and son, they're not here with me on this trip, so I'm just bacheloring it sort of thing with the boys, and then
Right.
well, and so otherwise, she could have been there and done the job for me, my friend.
Yeah, no shit. Dude, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm so jealous of you people right now. I'm in upstate New York, and like we're hunkering down, getting ready for like the snowstorm of the year, I guess. And it's been cold. 12, 10 degrees, and everyone down south is just hugging and fishing and drinking beer and putting suntan lotion on. Like I'm jealous, dude. I'm so jealous.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's been nice to get down here. I moved to Ohio. I moved to Northeast Ohio, where my wife's family's from, and the Cleveland Akron area, and she's dealing with the same thing: snow on the ground. It's freezing cold, and I was lucky enough to be able to get away and do this. So it was nice. Florida was nice for sure, man. Everyone's out and about, and just the sunshine feels good, and the fish are biting. So as long as you don't make a couple bad decisions like I did, they're biting a little bit better. But I caught plenty of fish and pre-fishing and whatnot, and had a good time exploring new water. So
Well, good man. Well, how long were you down there for? Like, go ahead and just break down the trip for me real quick. I know you're going to do
yeah.
probably a really good breakdown on your platforms. But I'm going to take advantage of it now and be the first one to talk to you about it.
Yeah, sure. So I know a lot of people have seen and made comments about my experiences down there, and I haven't had a chance to share as much as I'd like to because the kayak I was using, it's a new model from Crescent, so I couldn't really show it. I was told not to
Right.
show it. Scott Butcher and am I saying his name right? By the way, I keep remember
I
to
don't
ask.
like. I never
Buter.
say his last name. Like I don't even attempt. Like when people like say that Scott from KBF or whatever, people
Yeah.
know who I'm talking about. I don't try to. He butchered the alphabet with that last name. So
Yeah. Well, anyway, he's part of Crescent, and James and Justin, our marketing director, and James Durbecker. They were like, yeah, just don't show the boat to anybody. So anyway, I've shared a few snippets, but pre-fishing. So what I did is I went down, I pre-fished some history and some places, and some canals, rivers, creeks, some lakes, whatever. And history just wasn't happening for me. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't
right,
there. It wasn't the right conditions. The cold front came in, and maybe see, I didn't know if maybe my history was on, and I just didn't know it because when I was fishing, it was all during like those cold front couple days before. So now I'm confused. I'm like, well, now that it's getting warmer, maybe on the tournament days, should I go back to those places or should I not? Because it's just not happening. Was it the weather or was it actually the fish aren't there? So I decided to
right.
go fish. I was fishing this creek that it flows from one lake to another, and I fished like a lower portion of it, and I did okay. I caught some fish, and I felt pretty good about. I mean, I didn't really know. You never know what's really in your spot, until you actually really lay into them on tournament day. But I
Right.
caught one nice one, like 18 and a half inches, and several others. And I thought, well, let me lay into this spot on tournament day. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to float because I just did a small section of it, like down into from one of the lakes up a ways, and then I said, well, let me do the whole float. And I didn't have a chance to do the whole float during pre-fishing, so that's kind of what got me in, and that's why I went there. I know people are going to ask, well, why in the world how could you get stuck in a place like that? You didn't pre-fish? I'm like, yeah, well, I did, but I caught fish downstream, so I thought, well, I'm going to go give myself a nice like 10-mile section to do, like, in the tournament day. So because it's a smaller body of water, so I'm thinking there's probably only like one big fish maybe every mile or something. You know what I mean? Like if there
Right.
is, in theory, right? If there's one, I want to cover a lot of miles and try to find that one. So that was the plan. As I went downstream, I caught my first fish. So the water was really cold in the morning. The weather was cold at night. So they weren't biting good. The morning bite, from what I could tell from everybody else, it just wasn't there. It always got better in the afternoon. So this is what's comical. All the morning bite, there was none. So they weren't biting, and I fished my way down 4 miles, and then I caught one fish. My first fish, like 10 or 10:30. I'm thinking it's on now. It's warming up. The fish are going to start biting. and then all of a sudden it chokes up with hyacinth, which is just this water plant that grows on the surface, and the roots all connect to each other. So they get stronger as they connect, and the older they get, the stronger those roots get. But then they also connect to the bank. So it's just this tight stuff you can't get through. But the water's flowing underneath it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a floating plant. So at one point, I saw a small patch, and I went through it to some clear water and kept going. Another small patch, I went through it because I saw clear water on the other side, kept going. Man, but at one point, it was just like, as far as I could see in downstream, it was just clogged. And I was like, okay, I'm like 4 miles downstream, and I guess I have no choice but to either paddle back all the way and basically give up on the tournament, or how far could this be choked, right? I mean, the other two patches weren't that big. Let me just hike this kayak, which was legal. I was in a public swamp, and portaging's allowed in KBF. So I said, I'm going to hike this kayak downstream until it opens up again. And I go like a mile, and I keep checking back. I mean, it's such a dense forest, and the thickest part of it is actually right by the creek, because there's more like water, so that it thrives a little bit more. The vegetation does. So I have to hike it out a little ways, maybe 20, 30, 40 yards off of the creek, and then go down. And then every once in a while I'll check back and see if it's still there. Well, every time I check back, it's still choked. So I've gone like a mile. So now I'm about 5 miles down. And then I think to myself, well, let me look on Google Maps and see, because what I thought was lily pads on the Google Maps, the very first 4 miles was lily pads.
Right.
But then I hit this hyacinth, and I looked on the Google Maps, and I said, let me see if I can determine now the difference now that I'm here in person. And I can tell now, in hindsight, I can tell what's hyacinth and what's lily pads, although it's very hard to tell the difference on the satellite. I could, which was sad at that point, because I looked and it was like I have another 3 miles of this choked hyacinth to get through. So yeah, at least. So then I was like, well, I'm going to hike out to this road. It was like a levee road they built so the swamp doesn't flood into the neighborhoods and civilization. So I hiked 90 degrees out, and then I went down that direction of downstream. And then I was kind of crazy. I looked at the map, and I was like, it looks clear right here finally. And now the levee road had gotten close to the creek again. So I said, there's an hour and a half left to fish. If I hike back in, if I'm still legal, I'll call Chad from KBF and see if I'm still good to fish. And he said I was, because I went out, got safe, and I was on public land anyway. So I hiked back in through the swamp and the mud and all the cypress knees. Got back in the creek, and it was clear, so Google Maps was accurate, and ended up catching I caught like probably 10 fish in that last hour and a half, and got a limit, 75 inches. So ended up, I thought it was 20 something place when I looked, but I guess more people submitted, so it was like 36th place maybe out of 145, and I fished for like 3 hours or 4 hours. So I was pretty much considered that a win after all I'd gone through. That was day one, but day two, I figured I would just swing for the fences, because what did I have to lose, right? I mean, I'm already out of the 10 Invitational in terms of winning the 2-day and getting into the 10. I might as well just try to win. And honestly, man, I tell you, Josh, what's cool is being fortunate enough to win the Angler of the Year in the Hobie Series, and doing tournaments now for a couple of years and having, success doing it, man. I'm super blessed to where I feel like, especially last year after winning that AOY and doing, my fourth top 10 in a row in the KBF National Championship, I feel like more freed up than ever to take big risks like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, I don't care. I don't care if I zero. I don't even care. I'm going to go out there and just try to go to find new water, because I knew the water I'd fished pre-fishing would get me maybe like that. I thought like 80 inches max. The big fish just weren't there like they were in the past. But 80 is good. You do that 2 days in a row, you might catch a check, or even on one day if you get into the 80s. But I was like, I don't care. I'm going to try to win. I'm going to go hit new water. So I went and fished another creek that's going between a couple lakes again, but I knew this one was clear. Okay, so I had intel. I knew it was clear. I'd seen a video on YouTube. I knew it was clear. And I got a friend down there, Captain Wormy from Alligator Adventures Airboat Tours. He let me know it was clear, no hyacinth. So I did it. And the only problem was that I found out today or yesterday was it wasn't choked with vegetation, so that hazard wasn't there, but it was full of gators. I mean, like everywhere. Everywhere, dude. Yeah. So some of them were as big as and bigger than my kayak. There was one that I am not even joking, guys. I look over and I see this thing. It hadn't seen me yet. Usually they slither away when they hear me coming, because I'm a motor, and you just see these big wakes, right? Well, I saw this one. I was kind of moving slow and stealthy fishing, and I turned around and looked because it was just around a bend, and I saw the opening, and this thing was laying in the sun, and it was like as tall as like a Honda Accord, dude. Like it tall, like when it's laying there, its body was like that high off the ground, and I've never seen anything. I swear I've seen a dinosaur. It was insane, and it slid in the water and made this gigantic wake, and the creek's only like as wide as a 2-lane road, right? So now I'm going that direction. That's where I'm going.
Yeah, it's gonna be underneath your boat.
Yeah, exactly. So
they make horror movies that have scenes like that, where it's the boat and all of a sudden something comes up. Yeah, I would. That's a rough one, dude.
Dude, it was scary, and I mean, I've never been so terrified in all my life, knowing that it can take you down and your entire kayak and everything. You just could be gone like that. Now, on the flip side, I mean, I'm also smart enough to know it slithered away because it's afraid of me and it's scared. It's not wanting confrontation. It'll react if it feels threatened. But I didn't know if I'm motoring by and that noise from the motor and all that, if it maybe would feel threatened. But I also know this time of the year, they really don't want any confrontation because their bodies are going real slow and it's been real cold. The water is for them at least. For us, it's pretty warm down there, obviously. So I was like, all right, so here's my plan. I'm going to go on the bank side that it just slithered off of, right? Because it went out off the bank and it's so big. It's like almost as wide as the whole freaking creek. It went off down to the other side, which looked to be the deeper side. So I figured it's sitting down deeper there and you can see bubbles coming up and stuff. You know where they're at. You know where they're at. You're always, whenever they slide in, you kind of see them and know where they're at. But it's dark water, so you're freaking out because you feel like they're just going to come up every time you go past one. But I just motored on that side and was trying to slither away from it. And because I figured that's the side it wasn't on. And so the problem was I'm going over, I got a paddle in one hand and my remote in the other hand for the motor guide. And I'm just ready to this is crazy, I know. But why wouldn't you just be ready, right? So I have the paddle ready to just smack down on this thing if anything comes up. Not that I'm going to do anything with my bending thing, like angler, carbon, whatever. But the other reason I went right on the bank though is if it came up like that, I could jump out on the bank and run. You see what I'm saying? So
I don't. This whole time you're talking, I'm like, why don't you just leave? If you're thinking this much into a dinosaur underneath your kayak, and it's got you, because I don't know, maybe I'm just more of a realist. But if I'm scared and I know I'm scared, I don't want to be scared anymore. I usually take myself out of scary situations. So that and I'm from Florida, and when snakes and alligators and stuff like that, I just don't. If I feel the need, if I feel that way, then I'll probably just go somewhere else. I don't know. That's just me though, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I probably could have or should have, I guess. But at the same time, my good friend down there, like I said, Captain Wormy, he's taught me a lot about gators, and he even told me that when he'll get up to him with his airboat, they don't move sometimes. He said he'll touch them with his hand, their tail, and when he touches them, they don't turn around and attack him. They get on their way. He said they don't want anything to do with you, and they're afraid of you. So.
It's a funny story though. I was watching a YouTube video. It was a family and their dog, and they would whenever there was an alligator on the shore, they would send the dog after the alligator because the alligators would usually run off when the dog came after them. Cute little dog, and they were doing that, and they showed 6 times that it did this, and then the last time it did it, the alligator just turned around, bit the dog, took it in the water, and I imagine he ate it at some point. But I'd say they're wild animals.
You don't know what's going to happen.
I'm not touching an alligator.
No.
I don't know. There's a reason why I'm comfortably okay with living in upstate New York because the things in the water here don't eat you. It's safe.
Yeah.
If you can handle the cold weather, you'll survive. But down south, I just don't know. There's just so many creepy crawlers and alligators and snakes hanging from trees and
it's
just
scary,
hanging from trees. Yeah, it's terrifying. It's like
scary.
the last wild stuff down there, man. Ugh.
No, you're right. But anyway, that was my plan. But it sort of backfired because I went real close to the bank right there, and then there was a stick sticking a log under the water. And as I'm cruising by real slow, just watching out, keeping eyes on the water, I hit the log and I can't go, and I'm stuck. My motor's stuck on the log. I'm like, oh crap, dude, I'm stuck. And this gator's right here, and I'm right next to a spot where he slithered off the bank. It's his territory. He's so. Then I decide, all right, I jumped on the bank. I'm I'm getting out. I'm on the bank. So now I'm standing where he was, and I'm thinking, I don't really know exactly how they nest or whatever. I'm I'm sure hope there's not some nest or anything happening right now.
Right.
And he ticked off that I'm on his spot now. And so then I thought, well, I could just motor this with the remote through the upstream, and I could just hop in upstream. But the problem was, like I said, there was these low hanging trees all right there in the area just in front where the motor had to go, the boat. So I said, well, but what happens if I get my stupid motor stuck? I'm definitely not swimming out there to go get it unstuck. So then I'm just leaving everything in the wilderness and hiking out of here. And I don't want to do that again. Like I did that the day before. So I said, all right, I got to get back in this kayak. And I hop back in, and I just had to go more to like the middle, which is really scary because I think it's on this other side right here. And so I just had to cruise, get around that log and cruise kind of in the middle and under those tree limbs and just hit high and just kept going, man. But now Captain Wormy said, look, you just keep going. They don't want anything to do with you. Just keep on moving like you don't even, like they don't exist. And so, I mean, I was just trying to keep going and find some fish. And I don't know. I mean, I felt pretty safe. As scared as I was, I still feel like it's pretty safe. But like you said, they're wild animals, dude. You don't ever know really what's going to happen. So I probably don't really want to be in that position ever again. But there I was, and I caught one fish the whole trip, dude. One fish. I mean, it was horrible. I can't remember the last time I went fishing, caught one fish. I've never not caught a limit in a tournament ever. Well, except for last year at this event, I got a fish DQ'd because I forgot to put the identifier in the photo, and I had another photo with it, but it was already after time to submit. So I caught like 20 fish that day, but technically my stringer showed 4. So I was a little bit disappointed with the results of the tournament, but I had some good stories to tell. So it all worked out, and I experienced some new wild adventures, man. So can't complain. That's what I love about kayak fishing.
Yeah, did you get any of it on video? Besides you can't really show though because you got the whole
the second day I went in the light tackle from Crescent, so I could show that one, but I actually didn't really get any video that day because A, I was just busy fishing, trying to go so fast, and B, I just got these new Tacticams in, and they were shipping them to my house in Ohio, but they didn't get there in time. So then when they arrived, my wife overnighted them to Florida, and they still didn't. It still took 2 days to get them, even though she overnighted them. So I literally the day before the first day of the tournament, I got them for the first time, opened them up, have no clue how to use them. And one day the first day I put one on my kayak, the day I hiked through the swamp. I don't know how to use it. I just hit a button. It vibrated. There's a green light flashing. I assume it took video. I haven't even looked yet at the SD card. I assume it took video of me hiking through the swamp all day. But I have some video of that, but not this gator thing, which you wouldn't have seen a whole lot anyway because they slither in the water before you. But I did fly out of my kayak once on that trip, and that was scary because I hit a log in the motor guide and I was going full speed with a 105-pound thrust, 36-volt unit, and I'm flying, and you couldn't see there was a log there, and usually there's a ripple in the water. You can see something's under the water, and it hit, and then when it torques sideways, once it hits, if it ever torques sideways, it keeps going, then it kicks your kayak to the left or right. That all happened so fast. I flew forward, it hit sideways, and it threw me out. And now I'm in the water with the gators, man. And then I'm like freaking out. I'm like scrambling back in this kayak. I lost my sunglasses and I lost a few other things, but I didn't flip the kayak. It just, and it just keep it going. It's like the motor's still on. It's like going. I'm fumbling for the remote control in my hand, trying to like stop running into the reeds, and it was nuts, bro. But it was it's sort of what people are, and what Ken Morris, who does my Hooked on Wild Waters podcast with me, and not even Ken, just everybody for years, all my friends, they're like, dude, it's Drew chaos theory. It's Drew's fishing chaos happens every trip. Something happens, but that's I mean, you got to take the good with the bad when you fish in rivers and go river bassin and wild places. So
yeah, I mean, I imagine like to be a winner, you got to have some pretty crazy moments. You got to have like that balance, right? Like 1 minute you're winning the tournament or whatever angle of the year, the next minute you're getting attacked by a duck. I mean, it's just you can't just it can't all just be like this great. Like you got to have some other stuff into it, or it's just not a good story. You know what I mean?
That's right. I mean, look at Russ Snyder's. He won the tournament. He got all of his drama and his chaos out on pre-fishing. He flipped over in the wind that one day. He unfortunately had his truck broken into, stuff was stolen, and I just didn't do it like how Russ did. If I'm going to have any of my fishing chaos on that tournament, that adventure, it needs to be during pre-fishing, not during the tournament. Yeah, exactly. We just flip-flop. He did it the right way, and I did it all the wrong way. So
if kayak fishing ever gets like as huge as we want it, like you got to have that story for the 30-30 and stuff. When they do the Drew Gregory story, there's got to be something. Yeah. It can't just be you just winning all the time. I mean, there's got to be some there's got to be some fun stuff in there.
That's right, man. Some adventure for sure. So I had
So
my
shit.
share.
Yeah. So season's already started for you. I want to talk to you a little about last season because just a little bit. I mean, obviously it ended really well for you, but I'm not gonna lie. Like I kind of forgot about you last year. I remember you started off the
Yeah.
year. I know you did a few of the opening tournaments of the season,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you were just like gone. And not I completely forgot about you, but
Right.
just when it came to like the tournaments, like your name was nowhere near. Because I'm covering this a
Right.
lot. I'm talking to a lot of the winners and the people that are competing. I didn't hear anything from you, and all of a sudden you just come out of nowhere and just like ruin people's dreams and become angler of the year and place
Yeah.
well at these big tournaments. Like, where were you? What were you doing? And why'd you come back with such vengeance?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. And so what happened to me is it was a whole combination of crazy things. So COVID obviously affected all of us.
Right.
It affected, all the businesses at the beginning, Jackson Kai, for example, who I was with before, affected all the kite companies. We didn't know if it was going to we didn't realize it was going to be such a boom in the industry. So a lot of companies had things happen, furloughs. So I was furloughed. And, I was like, well, if I'm not going to be back till September, then I just need to go, find something else. So, and move on. It was the right time. We'd done a lot of cool stuff together at Jackson and it was awesome. And, wouldn't trade any of my experiences there for anything, and love those guys at that company, love all the people that still work there, of course. But, business is business and COVID happened and we had to kind of move on. So that was a big deal. And I had to sell our home in North Carolina. We had to sell and move to Ohio. We decided to move to Ohio to be closer to, my in-laws. My wife's family's from the Akron, Cleveland area. So we move up to Ohio, which, trying to sell a home during COVID,
Yeah.
not easy. Dealing with trying to get a new job, somewhere, a new role somewhere. Where are you going to fit into the kayaking industry? I've been working in it for 10 years, right? And so where am I going to fit in? Was not easy trying to solve all these problems. 3 dogs, a toddler, you throw all that in the mix. COVID, it was just crazy.
Right.
Like you said, I mean, I was there at the beginning tournament. I got second at the KBF Claremont Chain Pro Tour to Jody Queen, and then I fished this the Bassmaster on Logan Martin was my last one I fished, and got 16th out of the whatever that was 250 or whatever, and qualified for the classic, whatever the kayak classic, whatever we're calling it. And then, obviously fished that Invitational as well last year. Those are the 3 I did, and I did pretty well. And then, like you said, I disappeared because I had to take care of life and family, and
Right.
that's what's important. And our house fell out of contract 3 times, one of which was on the 51st day of a 52-day closing. So you can imagine how we felt. And we were, in the meantime, living in Ohio, quarantined with my in-laws. So throw in the fact that, I've got great in-laws, but I mean, I don't care how good your in-laws are. You don't want to live with them for 5 months, bro. Like, and they don't
No.
want you. They don't want you there for 5 months.
No, dude. I love my in-laws. Like, they're a little bit on the wealthier side. They got the good booze and the
There
big
you go.
house, but at some point it's just like I really just want to, fall apart and do my own thing in my own house. It gets old quick.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I mean, that's the way we felt. We had the 3 dogs and the baby and whatever. So it was just tough. Very, very tough point. At one point, I hurt my back in the middle of all that in my father-in-law's warehouse. I was helping him do some work, and I literally was just laying on the floor, the cold floor, and it's like April, it's freezing, and I can't even move. So for 2 weeks, I couldn't even move. People don't even know a lot of this stuff. I was couldn't move for 2 weeks, have no job, have no house, living with my in-laws. Like it's just
Uh,
you couldn't be
those
more down.
the COVID blues, man.
Yeah,
So
the COVID blues. But no, God has a plan, and the thing that I was able to keep it together. I mean, trust me, it wasn't easy, and I wasn't together as much, as I make it seem like I was. It was hard, you know what I mean? It was just real
right,
life. Like we all face it. It's real life, man. Like we meaning people in the kayak fishing industry, the fishing industry, and people that you see in the public eye and Facebook and whatever, like influencers, people. Our goal is to make our life seem like amazing. So you should come kayak and
right,
fish too, and it's all hunky dory. But it's just not. That's not real, man. It's not real.
yeah,
We have the same issues and same stuff happens, and that's kind of what was happening to me. So eventually, what I did know before is I only got into kayak fishing because I lost a job. That's how I got into kayak fishing. I essentially lost a job. It was an interim job, but I didn't get the full-time job. And, I was working at a university, and the students, everyone, we were shocked. And I bought a home there. I was ready to settle down there forever in North Georgia. I loved it. But in hindsight, man, it was kind of like just, God's plan to get me into fishing. Cause then I moved to South Carolina, middle of nowhere town. All I did was fish, kayak fish, and continue to grow my brand. And I say my brand, but that's like hokey stuff to even talk. I wasn't growing a brand. I was just a dude fishing. I didn't know I was growing a brand, but that's technically what I was doing. I didn't know it. And I didn't know I was going to be fishing for a living, working in the fishing industry and doing fishing stuff. But I was, and I never would have done that had I not been in a town with no one my age. I was single, young, still, mid-20s, and it just became so evident after, just doing it for so long that I needed to start my own website, share this with the world. And that eventually did lead me to connect with Jackson Kayak when we developed my signature kayak, the Coosa, back in 2009. It came out in late 2010. So it was a 2011 model. So in the back of my mind, I know like God's got a plan for this. Like there's going to be something that comes out of this. That's a reason. And I cannot be more happy with where I'm at right now. We've got a new house there in Ohio. I'm working with Crescent Kayaks, developing this incredible new kayak that I can't really talk a lot about right now, other than to say that it's not the kayak that I was hiking to the swamp. That one was a new model. And I told people on Instagram or my videos, I was like, it's a new model. I can't really show you me hiking it really. I had little peaks of it, but not a lot. But it's not my model. So anyway, I could be more happier, man. That was cool. So that's kind of what happened to me during the year. And then I finally when we got settled back in with that new house, out of the in-laws, my role at Crescent kind of figured out and all that good stuff. I was finally able to, I think it was actually when we first moved into the house, like say to my wife, like, okay, I'm going to get back to fishing. And that was the first time I ever was in a Crescent kayak publicly on the Susquehanna River, the first Hobie BOS tournament. And I knew, it sounds crazy, but I did look at the schedule and said, I think I could do well in the Susky. I think I can do well on Lake Dardanelle or somewhere. But then I also thought I could do well on the Coosa chain. I've never fished it, but I was like, it's a river. I can kind of figure something out there. The only thing I was, a little bit more concerned about was Lake Dardanelle. And I ended up getting fourth in the Susky, first at Lake Dardanelle, fourth at the Coosa to be my 3 tournaments, to be at third in the AOY, right behind Russ. And I think Jody was leading, or maybe it might have been the other way around, but I think it was Jody that was leading and then Russ and then me. I can't remember. But either way, then I went to the TOC and somehow I couldn't believe it. Jody didn't catch 5 the first day, and then Russ killed it. So I'm like, well, this is Russ's AOY. I'm happy to get second with there's cash and some prizes, Hobie Worlds invite for second and third. So I was just happy to stay in the top 3. But then the second day of the tournament, Russ didn't catch 5, and I did both days, and they weren't incredible limits, but they were pretty decent. I got 7th, so that's how I ended up winning it. Just 4 in a row, just the last 4, just boom. It was nuts.
It's awesome because in a sense it wasn't like, because you look at like most of the I know you're a tournament fisher, but I don't really like consider you like a tournament angler compared to like guys like Russ Snyder who the people live out of their vehicles or on the road every weekend. They're fishing like just whatever. No. Just these kayak gypsies, man, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
But going there like last minute, I feel like what you did and to be able to put up those kind of not just performances, but put yourself in those positions. That's like, that's feel pretty good. I feel like you got your niche off of the content you put out, the things that you created. I know you did really well at like the national championship a few years ago when Mike Elson won it. But I never really considered you like just the tournament guy, just more of a just a content guy, just out there and just whatever you do with the sport. And it was just like when you won the Angler of the Year, I'm like, oh, this guy's got the best of both worlds. Not only can this guy put out some really good content, he's got a podcast, YouTube channels, but he can also fish really, really good. Yeah. And you see that like a lot of people, they either they don't usually have both. They're really good at content or they're really good at fishing, but there's not really the both. And and the only person else I can think of that's really good like you is like maybe Greg Blanchard.
Yep.
That's about it. But it's just the get Angler of the Year. And then to have like the kind of stuff that you have going on, it's just like geez, he's on fire right now. This is something else.
It was nuts, man. I was so excited to finally be back on the water, and I fished like it, dude. And so what you're saying though is a good point. People, and I agree. Like I understand what you're saying. Like people don't see me as just solely a tournament angler because that's I don't fish as many events as Cody and Russ and Jody and those guys. That's like and Christine. That's like all they do. And I mean, I don't know who else. There's a bunch of them that do that, right? I mean, that fish a ton. But I'm also so I can't because also I've always had a job with Jackson before, and then now with Crescent, I'm designing stuff with them. It takes a lot of time, and then I'm doing my own other things as well. But and I've got a toddler at home and wife, and it's like just can only be away so many weekends.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I try to hit 12 to 14. That's a lot because you got to figure if you're gonna hit and I only fish the national stuff. It's just the entry fees are enough and the payouts are enough where I feel like it's worth it, and the media exposure is really a big part of it too for my sponsors and what I do. But up until the last couple years, I would say when Hobie came out with their series, BASS, and then of course KBF already had theirs, but it just tournaments weren't really somewhere I saw yet that I could get a ton of value until just the last recent years. Now that these other trails have come about, so that's why the beginning, especially back in 2009 or in 2004, 5, 6, whatever, when I was building my brand, like I said, I couldn't make a name and get a signature series kayak made from fishing tournaments, right? Because they were just small little dinky clubs everywhere, nothing national. So I did it with social media, YouTube, and just my content that I made, catching big fish and putting pictures on the internet of those fish. And then today's day and age, you can do it that way. Just be a YouTuber, if you will, or social media influencer to get a following, and then go to a manufacturer to get a sponsorship or some deal, whatever. Or you can fish tournaments. And I've chosen because John Hipsher at Yak Attack said, back when I fished, I think it was 2017, I fished the KBF Open Championship. And before that, I hadn't fished. I fished the original Kayak Bass Fishing Open. The first big event that was really like the championship was called the Open and Invitational. I don't remember what year it was. It could have been 2011 or 12. But I tied for first, so in the Invitational, which was kind of like the best of the best group. And Tony Yang won, and he won like $10,000. I tied for first. I got second, and in that one. And then, but after that, I hadn't fished another tournament until that 2017 Open. Which, here's the crazy things. That Open, I got like 16th, and there was like 600 people in that tournament. I got 16th. This is at where was this? Kentucky Lake. Because of that one finish, it automatically got me into the national championship next year, because that was the year they did an Open and a national championship jointly. They stopped doing that because it was a headache and they couldn't. The results were going till 4 a.m, 5 a.m, and then they didn't get finished. So they said we can't do two at the same time anymore. But because I didn't fish any of the trail series or any way you would normally qualify for the national championship, I never fished one thing. I just fished the one Open, qualified me for the national championship in 2018. I think I got like 8th in that one. And then I think it was like 8th, and I got a 5th, and I got a 2nd, and then I got a 9th this year. So it was like this run of like 4 top 10s in a row. But every time I would win, or whatever, like win to me, placing, getting a check, top 10, whatever you want to call it. I feel like not technically winning, but it would qualify me for the next year's national championship. Well, at some point, John Hipsher said, "Dude, you fish like one event a year. It's the national championship against 600-700 people, and every time you're like top 10. Why don't you just focus now that these tournaments are bigger and the media is following them? Why don't you just focus on that? And you don't have to worry about expenditures that your production company costs, doing Hooked on Wild Water show that I did for like five seasons. You can just go fish, and we get as much benefit out of it as you, and you can have a chance to even win money too." I was like, dude, that sounds awesome, because it's a pain in the butt to film outdoor fishing shows on kayaks. It's really hard, lighting and all this stuff, and you're like, you can't just go fish like like fun fish like you do in a tournament, just like you're a kid, just fishing, go wherever you want to go. They can't, camera boats really can't keep up with how fast I go and stuff. I fish pretty fast, so you have to go slow and wait. And anyway, I was excited when John mentioned that. So that's a great idea. So people don't think of me as a tournament angler because I only fished like 5 tournaments 2 years ago, like the FLW KBF thing. I fished the Pan American thing. I fished the national championship. I fished the Hobie satellite event on Lake Murray. I got 3rd on that. I mean, I just fished like 5 events, but I did pretty good in all of them. Top 10 in the national championship, 2nd at the Pan American Kayak Bass, 8th at the FLW KBF Cup, 3rd at Lake Murray Hobie. But there's just 5. Like, you're not going to make your name for yourself just fishing like 5 tournaments when you got these other guys like Cody and Matthew Scotch and Christine. Everyone's out there fishing like 20 to 25 events a year. Eric Siddiqui's, Ron Champions, whoever. But then I said that was a point where I was like, all right, next year I'm fishing more tournaments. And that was the year COVID hit. And then, like you said, so then I only fished those few at the beginning, and then I went on that run at the end. And then I was like, man, John was right. Like I always, knew I could catch fish, but I didn't really know exactly where I stood compared to like everybody until that happened. And then now this year, I'm set up to fish 12 to 14, which takes, like I said, it's like 7 to 8, 9 days per event, because if you count packing up and unloading, that's like one day on either side, right? Then you got to drive one day somewhere, almost a day somewhere, especially now that I'm in Northeast Ohio. You got to take a whole day pretty much for travel on either side. It's 4 days right there. And you're not even counting pre-fishing. And I usually like to be pre-fish for 2.5 days. Half day to drive around the best I can to hit some access points, and then 2 days to then try to hit as many of those as I can to fish for like a few hours in each one to see how I feel about all of them. So, I mean, that's at the minimum. Hopefully 3 days would be even nicer. I know some guys camp out for like a week before, but couldn't be gone that long. So anyway, yeah, that's why I think that it's going to be changing in terms of the way people see me, but I'll never still be seen as a full-time tournament angler because I work for Crescent. That's what I do. I've also got another company venture, if you will. I'll tease it here on your podcast. It's coming out later in the spring. It's a fishing related company and product that I started, and you guys will like it. So I'm doing all these other business things, and I have other sponsors and content to get and product development. I work with a lot of my sponsors as well. So I just can't focus like full time on it.
Yeah, but let me ask you this: like, why would you, really want to focus? I mean, you've already found your niche, and you've already pretty much made fishing your living. That's what you do for a living. When you look at people who are just chasing these tournaments, it's like they're having a time. Like they look like they're having a lot of fun. They're always hanging out, camping out, fishing, cashing checks, but none of them are making like a real good living off fishing, and none of them are mostly are like me and you are similar in the sense that we got people to depend on us. We got wife, we got kids. I can't be gone, like whatever. I just can't do it. But
right.
These people, this is what these people do. But you get more in with what you do outside of the tournament than you do actually. Yeah. And so it's just like, I mean, why would you want to? I mean, like, look, unless you got like some kind of like competitive hunger in you, but at the same time, like your life is revolved around fishing and like this content you put out and the business decisions you make. I mean, at some point, it's like who really cares about tournament fishing when it's like when you see like the argument of like the big boat pros arguing with like the YouTubers who are getting famous off YouTube videos. It's like, why would this person ever want to be? Because you're fighting to win this one check, and this guy's getting checks every week for making a video and stuff. I mean, like, does that ever like how much do you really want to like invest in tournament fishing?
Well, the only thing I'll say about that, the only difference in my situation is, so when you develop a kayak you know what I'm saying? Like you have to get on the water with it to get content to market it. You know what I mean? Anyway, you have to get on the water and fish anyway. And so it kind of and then of course I've got other sponsors that have always sponsored my show and what I've done with me personally since I've sort of, built my name in the industry and have whatever. It's a decent little following. I'm not like some huge whatever. Like there's a lot of guys in fishing, but
you're definitely big in your genre. You're definitely big in your genre. You know what I mean? Like it's like my podcast is not huge, but it's big in the kayak community.
That's
so
right.
I mean, that's success, right?
Right. And these companies all sponsor me, and they support me with product and cash. And so I need to now give back something to them. Well, giving back, if you want to market, if you're a kayak angler, so previously it was my show, right? My show, they would sponsor that, and then they would get the benefit of the cool episodes and some short clips or some photos from when we're out there in the water. It's like, if I'm going to have to be out there in the water doing all this anyway, and I can compete in these tournaments and I enjoy it and I get to fish very freely and very, I would say, just fun. Like I'm a kid just out there, just slinging, and no worry. I don't even care if I'm recording, out there. I'm going to now with the Tacticams that they're going to make it nice and easy. I've been with GoPro for a long time, but they're sort of getting out of the fishing space, unfortunately. So on the marketing side, so I'm going to be with Tacticam for this year and see how these go. And so far it looks like they're going to be awesome, but I mean, I just get to basically just hit record one time and just go, because those battery packs last for like 8 hours. And to me, it's fun. So if I can get out there and get all the content I need during pre-fishing, get some nice, good photos, good quality
Right.
photos and videos with the people that I'm going to be with at these tournaments. The guy that does the podcast with me, Ken Morris, he goes with me on some trips. I'm actually right now at my buddy Dustin Hoy's house down in Florida. He owns Raccoon Creek Outfitters in Ohio, and different people go with me on different trips. I was with Craig Dye on this trip too. Whoever's with me, whatever. I get photos and video clips, and plus the Tacticam footage. I can use that for my sponsors and for Crescent. And then same time I'm pre-fishing, and then for a tournament, I get to fish the tournament and have fun. So it's kind of like be around all the people and hang out and just love the kayak fishing community and all the people anyway. So it's just fun. I get to see friends. So it's a perfect way to blend it all together. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
For me.
Yeah, no, and I think it's cool that you're in that situation where you can, because like we said earlier, like you don't see a lot of people who are good at who are doing good at both. Whether it's the content or it's usually just one-on-one, and it's kind of like when you find someone like you or Greg Blanchard, it's kind of like a jewel. You know what I mean? Because it's like you want your the people that whatever product, whoever who's pushing you. That you want them to be really good at fishing, but also really good at content, because it does so much more for them to like say, not only is this guy making badass videos, but he's also the angler of the year for Hobie, which not a lot of people can say that, right? I mean, there's only one angler of the year per year, and then with your following and stuff. I mean, I don't know. It's not like pretty good to be Drew Gregory.
Yeah, no, it's been great, man. To go from where I was, like I said, and if anything, should be inspirational and inspiring for people out there that maybe you're in the mountains right now, you're in the high in life, and maybe you're down low like I was, but just goes to show, you can just keep grinding, stay positive. I mean, just trust in the Lord. He's got a plan, just stay strong, stay true to who you are, because you'll come out of that valley. You know what I'm saying? Like you will, and you'll gotten better from it. You'll learn from it. And maybe God just wants you in a different spot where you have a much better life and you're much happier than you ever thought you could even be. I never thought I could be happier. I never even considered fishing for a living. I was so naive. I got my master's degree in sports management. I was running sports leagues for tournaments. I mean, for students at universities as a director of campus recreation, had a house overlooking the mountains, my first home, 40 minutes from my niece and nephew and my parents. There, northeast of Atlanta. I mean, I was content. I was done. I was going to be there for the rest of my life. I didn't care. I loved it. And there was nothing wrong with that job. I loved it. And I wanted to be there. But, God just gave me different talents and skills. And I was like, all right. I mean, and it worked. That's kind of where he set my course to go. And I look back now, and I've never been more angry and upset at like God and just at life. And when I lost that job, because I mean, now what? You know what I mean? I got to move away from this house. I got a mortgage. I'm not going to be around my family. I mean, this sucks. And now I just laugh at myself, like how dumb of me not to just, I get it now. Like I get it. Like there's something bigger going on here. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I was just I've never been happier now, man. Like I have so much freedom at Crescent, and it's just like all my design it's like all mine, and James is the only one at Crescent that, James Durbecker that, I have to, check with him and run stuff by him. But if I'm really believing something so strongly, he might be like, bro, I don't know, man. You sure we need this like feature on this kayak? Like, I'm like, yeah, because it's going to cost a lot or whatever. It costs more to do this. Is it really worth it? I'm like, yeah, it's worth it. And then if I'm convicted about it, then he's like, all right. And he just lets it roll. So like, it's just exciting, man, for me to see like where I've come. So hopefully this is inspiring for other people. And, if there's anything, I can at least just encourage everybody out there to stay strong, and you'll come out of what you're coming out of. And if you're up high, never forget, how that feels, and know it could, go away at any moment too, so that's what life's about. But, as far as talking about those other folks that are doing it full time, I'll say like, it's interesting in kayak fishing how everyone's life is at different stage. So like, here's what I've noticed. Some people are doing this like full time, basically living out of their van or whatever. And they may have like a little side job, but they're basically doing it full time because they save as much money as they can on travel, and they're fishing. So we tracked on the fantasy kayak fishing that we did last year, which we're doing again this year. And you can still enter, by the way. You go to look for it on my, Drew Gregory Fishing or Instagram. We got links to it. I posted on Kayak Bass Fishing's group, KBN group. If you guys want to play, it's a lot of fun. You can sign up till February 19th. But all your salaries, by the way, that every person has a salary on them, and you can pick six anglers for the year. If they've won money, they're going to go like up. So it'll lock though on the 19th, right? So, but we are. But anyway, long story short, the money leader was like, technically it was Matthew Connett, but he wasn't in the game because he was a rookie, so we didn't know about him. He is this year. But Russ Snyder's had like $41,000, and Jody maybe had like 28,000, or maybe it was 30. I don't know. Or Ryan Lambert won the TOC, so he was around 32, 33,000. And Joe, I think I was around 24, maybe. I don't know. But Cody Milton, 16 or 17,000. So the point is, like you're saying, and that's just counting national stuff. I know they fished local, like trail series, because now we're counting
there.
Yeah, now that last year we weren't counting the trail series, but this year we are, because last year we were supposed to be counting the pro series, which got kind of canceled. Then we just counted super trails. But either way, this year it's to keep track of all the national trails, the KBF Trail Series, Hobie BOS, and the BASS, right? So this year we'll see another true showing, but I think the top people are earning, like if you win the national championship, obviously you're getting a big check. You're getting $75,000 with bonus bucks. Other people are going to win TOCs. People like Russ Snyder's are going to win a lot. If turnouts keep going like they were at this first one, people are going to be, several people are going to be hitting $30,000-$40,000. I mean, I'd say we might have, 5 or 6 people that are above 30,000. But the point is, like you're saying, you can't really make a living off that. So you got to be single, young, and willing to take the chance, living out of your van to make it even work. Or you got to be retired, already have some money stashed away. So like Jody Queen, he'll say, he's my teammate with Z-Man, some other brands, and he's a good guy, a good friend of mine. He'll say, like, I'm not retired. This is what I do for a living. This is my job. And he's right. This is what he does. He focuses on this. He's going to be fishing. He fished the trail series. He's fishing in the 10. He's going straight to the Hobie. He will fish as many as he can, and he'll earn over $30,000 or $40,000 on tournaments for sure. And then, so you either have to be in one of those two camps, you know what I'm saying, to be able to do it full time, like you're right. Or, if you have a family, if you're a Matt Ball or someone that Craig Dye or Corey Dreyer, you can probably only fish so many. And then you're just not really seen in the same light you're talking about with these other guys that are just the hardcore guys that do it nonstop. Guillermo and Matthew Scotch, they fish a lot of events, and they're great anglers. And, but those guys also do some side stuff, guiding. You got to put it together somehow on the other side with something else. But yeah, it's been, Christine's a good example. She does a lot of good stuff she gets paid, I know, from some sponsors. And that's what I was going to say and that's actually a good point about me winning the AOI. So this isn't I'm just trying to fill you guys in on the truth, legit. Like, this is how it works. Fishing is hard to get any money from any companies for fishing. They'll give you free product all day when you get to a certain level. They'll easily give you discounts on pro staff. I know we joke like, oh, pro staff, whatever. Like, it doesn't mean anything anymore. Everyone can get a discount, right? But it's harder to get free product, but it's out there. But then on top of that, it's very hard to get cash, like super hard. And so what I guess my point is that, that's where what I do comes into play. Hopefully I can teach folks out there. You got to focus more on not just fishing the tournaments and doing well in tournaments, but you got to give these sponsors something else, or they don't really see much value. And you got to be able to give them photos and videos and other content, something else, because that's how you're really going to make your living. You know what I'm saying? You need them to cover all your expenses for the whole tournament trail, and then some even, and then you take all your winnings, you add it to any extra you have from them, and then you're actually doing it, full time, and can make, if you're still, obviously I'm still talking about if you're probably, young and single, then you're doing it okay, and paying the bills and doing all right. So that's why I think we need a limit on pre-fishing time at some point on national trails, because it actually helps those guys who right now they feel the pressure because there are no limits to just camp for 2 weeks and learn the fishery, because otherwise somebody else is going to do it and they're going to win because I didn't. Well, that hurts them. It doesn't help anybody.
Well, you think it kind of hurts the sport in a way, because I feel like where I'm at right now, like I want to compete, but I'm also starting to like look at like the realism of it as well. Like the realistically, like what are my chances to go head to head with some of these people who are literally down there for 2 weeks who are down,
Yeah.
who live and breathe this stuff. And but at the same time, like those guys can't really make any money if people like me don't buy in. Like they need losers like me to go in and spend money that think I can win. It's kind of like a catch-22. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
I would like to see like some things like that change a little bit because I can't argue the motor thing anymore. That's out there. It's only going to get bigger and better. And and all the different electronics that are coming out, like we've already lost that fight. And not that I was really ever against. I'm just saying that's just like it's now it's like that's just the way the sport's going. But with like the pre-fishing and all that stuff, I'm just like maybe we can control that a little bit because it's if you want people like me to really buy into this and really get involved, it's like you got to meet me halfway somewhere.
Yeah,
Like,
you're right. You're right, dude. It's a good point that I've been thinking about for a long time. And like I said, my previous job was I was director of campus recreation where I ran sports leagues and tournaments. So my brain, and I ran the River Bassin Tournament Trail for 10 years. I put my own tournament series for 10 years. So I mean, I've done this and a lot, and I think about these things, the rules. And so what I think we need to do, because we need the guys like you said, I'm not.
You can call me a loser if you want.
I'm not going to say loser. But we need guys like you in terms of you have a family and you're thinking the way you're thinking, like, why would I want to enter? You know what I'm saying? Like, because it is hard to like enter these tournaments unless it's your local water.
Sometimes it's $1,000 vacation that I'm not taking my family on, and I got a son who loves Mickey Mouse. And is it right for me to go spend $1,000 to go fish something that I don't think I'm gonna get a return on my investment, or take Ratty to go see Mickey Mouse? You know what I mean? Those are the things that I juggle with when it comes to tournament fishing. And I love tournament fishing, but it's just there's that adult part of me that's like you got to look at this differently now.
You do, man, and that's so what I think needs to happen. And I think it's it got like I don't know 40 something likes when I made this reply in one of the Hobie's group or KBN's group somewhere. I saw some stuff. I said for the pre-fishing, all we need to do to be able to have your type of guy, and you could put those other guys, like I said, Craig Dyes and Corey Dryers and whoever, tons of people, anybody else that's got family and kids. I mean, there's everybody out there tons of them, but those are just guys that come to mind. But we still need them to enter, and the way that we need to do it is put a limit on pre-fishing days. The 2 weeks leading up to the event, start at the 2 weekends before the Friday. So people have 2 full weekends, because if you have a 9 to 5 job, you might if the tournament's let's say it's 3 or 4 hours away, you can go and pre-fish for 2 whole weekends, not miss any work time. And we need to put a limit, whether it's 5 days or whatever. Like it needs to be like some reasonable limit, not like 1 or 2, but like, look, you get to fish 2 weeks before the tournament, fish 5 days.
Yeah.
Now, if a guy like you can only fish 3 or 4, at least everybody else is only getting 1 or 2 more than you, and that's it.
Right.
They're not sitting there for 2 weeks. They're not just camped. But but at the same time, it gives everyone enough. It gives them a window, because this isn't a professional elite series where this is all we do for a living. So we can make it. The pre-50 is the 3 days of the week, and then you have a day off or whatever they do. Some FLW or whatever, not FLW anymore, but Major League Fishing, bass. They have like 3 days, and then sometimes I think they have a day off, and then they do the tournament. And so we can't do that during the week. We have jobs. We couldn't take all that off. So we have to accommodate. That's why I say it's got to be the Friday, 2 Fridays before. So you got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, a whole week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then the whole week. Then that Friday is tournament. So maybe you pre-fish, if the limit was 5, you pre-fish Saturday, Sunday, next weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and then you get off on Friday. So you get there on Thursday, you pre-fish that Friday.
Yeah.
Then you actually got 5 in. But like I said, you don't need, I usually just get 2.5. That's it. 2.5 days. So
I think that's average for most people. About like a day or 2 is usually. And I love that idea. And the people that push back against it, I don't think they realize like what they're pushing back against. They don't realize that like our sport is unique in the sense that everyone can do it. You know what I mean? Like anyone can do this sport. Which allows those the pots that we do have, like the big money pots. That's why we have them, is because anyone can do this sport. When you look at like the pros in like the big boat world, but not everyone can do that. Like it is like an elite series. And I'm not saying kayak fishing shouldn't have an elite series. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying if you, at least where we're at now, like you want to be like a little more all inclusive, and you want to bring people into it. Because if not, like Russ Snyder won't want to travel and compete in those events because there's just not enough money in it for them. Like
Right.
we need max participation, I guess is what I'm getting at. And the
Yeah,
only
I
way to do
agree.
that is to create a system or whatever in place that's gonna, like I said, like it's hard for me to get motivated to go down and fish in like Arkansas, Darnell, or something like that. I really want to
Yeah.
go down there and fish it, but that's a big trip. And knowing that some of these guys have been there for 2 weeks, it's just like
Yeah. It's
it's
tough.
very just not disheartening, but like discerning. Like I'm
It
not
is.
it's just the way. And I think people just need to realize it's not that I want people to be elite and all, and that's all great. But right now, like it's a max participation type thing.
Yeah.
Like how many people can we get here and simply fish these events? And then if you want to have like an elite series, that's fine. But there's gonna be bigger buy-ins for those. Like you're
Right.
not gonna. It's so all the people who would complain about that, like you don't realize that like if I'm not paying the $250 and eventually you're gonna have to pay $500 or whatever to get those kind of payouts that you want. And I know I agree with like 100%. I like to just see like a little more that kind of like
Right.
regulation where like
Yeah.
it makes it easier for us to decide, like, especially like I have like one of my favorite guests is Craig Dye. Like I mean, he's similar to me. It's like we love the fish, we love the tournament fish, but we love our families, and it's hard for
Hmm.
me to take away from them to go do something that's just really just
Yeah.
a really passionate hobby. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, Craig's a great guy, good friend of mine. He actually stayed with me down there in Florida, at the Airbnb that we got. And so, and what I'll say about you're spot on. I mean, totally spot on. And here's the thing that's interesting. And I talked to Cody Milton about this, and he agreed. It actually, the people that are camping out and are doing this more full time now, and they have the ability to just sit on a place for a week or two, it actually helps them because what you said earlier is true. They're not making enough money just on tournament winnings, even if you're the best, to make a living. They need money coming in from other ways. Well, the way you do that is you have to have the time to work out, contact those companies, explain who you are, build a media kit together with all your stats, and then do the business part, work a deal with them. Here's what I'm going to do, and get all that stuff done, and have like 10, 12 other sponsors supporting you, and then with cash and product. And then you have to have time to then deliver on not just doing well in tournaments, but delivering the media that they are wanting, and back. And you can't do that if there's a rule that there's no rule saying that there's a limit to pre-fishing. Then in your head you're like, somebody else is going to be out there for 2 weeks, I have to be. So this
Right.
gives you, it takes a weight off the shoulders of those people like Cody Milton and Russ and everybody else saying, oh, thank God, I don't have to
Yeah.
just be here for 2 weeks fishing, and I can actually instead work on the other side of the business that's going to give me income, so I can do this for a living and make more money. It
Right.
actually helps them. It doesn't
Yeah.
hurt them. It helps them. So it helps everybody. It helps the working man like you, and it helps them. It's perfect because then everyone feels like they got a shot to win.
Right.
And
I
and
agree.
most likely they're going to do well because they're hammers anyway. You know what I'm saying? So they don't need to camp there that long. They're just trying to do it because the other hammers they know that they'll be there, so they feel like they have to.
Yeah, it's like just like the whole steroids thing. If this person's taking steroids, I want to take them too.
Yeah.
You gotta have like I agree 100%, and hopefully I know it's being talked about a lot. So hopefully we see something like that because I think it would make it like I think you'd have a lot more better participation and people who especially like people who like lack just a little bit of confidence. They just need a little bit more
Yeah.
confidence and then they'll go out and then they'll do these things. But
Yeah,
yeah,
we need participation. You're right, because the tourism departments for Bassmaster and Major League Fishing, tourism departments are not paying for the heads and beds for those anglers necessarily, because a lot of them have campers and they don't really. I mean, there is like some people that travel, and there's a little crowd at Bassmaster events that bring a little bit of tourism money into the area, but they're really paying more for the exposure from the TV, right? That
right,
their areas like Palatka, Florida, you know what I mean, or Lake Champlain, like come fish this, Lake Chickamauga. That's where they're getting a lot of but we don't have that. We're not on
right,
a network TV like that. So what the main thing that we need, like was what you said, we need more people there, because that's the benefit that tourism's getting is actual heads in beds those weekends of the tournament, and really the weeks leading up to it when people are there pre-fishing. That's the reason why they pay Hobie or KBF or Bass, not because they're not on TV. That's the only thing they really pay them for. And of course the social media, and Chad does do a show, which is on TV for the 10 and for stuff like that for Kissimmee. But you get my point. It really is
right.
more about the money that we bring into the economy in which case you need more people, and more people are going to stop showing up if all these hammers keep winning every time.
Yeah.
And you feel like you have no shot. If you're just a 9-to-5 job, you got 2 kids, a wife, and you maybe can get away to pre-fish for one day, you're just eventually just going to throw in the towel and say, I'm just going to fish my local clubs because that's all that, it's really worth it. And then the numbers might decline. Not even decline because the sport's growing, but they could be so much greater. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're on the same page, man.
All right. Well, before I let you go, I'll ask you this because, like, you've been in the sport as long as you have, and I mean, you've done it all. You've won some great tournaments, Angler of the Year. You've built kayaks. You've designed kayaks. Like, where do you see, like, because like I'm having a hard time with it, but I just don't know where the sport's going. Because at one point there weren't motors allowed, and now I saw Chad post a few months ago a video or a picture with like 2 motors on it, and asking what people thought about having 2 motors on your kayak. And then I was watching Cody Milton kayak the other day, and he had like 2 fish finders on it or 2 monitors on it, and all these things. And I'm not for or against. Like my whole philosophy is like whatever the rule set is, I'll obey it. Do I have my own personal opinion? Yeah. But it's irrelevant because I don't have to sign up for something if I don't want to. So it's not like I'm hating on it, but like, where do you see it all going? Because I mean, what's a kayak? What does it mean to be a kayak angler? And where the sport's going? Because it is changing, it is evolving, and I guess it should. But where do you see it really going? Especially with someone who's in the business of like creating like kayaks and things like that. Like, where do you really see the sport going as far as like what we're gonna do with it? Like, I mean, are we gonna have like jet propulsion packs on it at some point and whatever? Like, I mean,
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, man. I'll tell you where I see it going. I'll tell you where I'm going. I'm staying true to who I am, and I got into this sport for the exact reason of it's simple. A kayak, I got into it because it's 50, 60 pounds. I could go fish rivers and creeks with it, drag it up and down river embankments, hard access points, access water that boats can't access. And that's still who I am today, and that's who I'm always going to be. Will I ever – do I use motors in tournaments? Will they allow them? Of course, because everyone else has that advantage. You got to. But I'm still using them to go find wild places, you know what I mean? But to me, that's the essence of that's what makes a kayak, a kayak, right? Is not having to launch at a boat landing. You know what I'm saying? Like being able to launch in these cool, wild places. At Crescent, man, what's unique is, we only make paddle kayaks. We don't make pedal drives. And, sure, they can take a motor, but we're just all about the paddling aspect. We got a $699 kayak called the Ultralight. We got another new one coming out that's I think like $799 range. We've got an $899 12-foot light tackle. They're all just paddle kayaks. They're simple. They're just simple, made to like the whole point of the sport, right? When I got in it, right? So that's where I'm always going to be when I'm going to be into, first and foremost. That's where I'm always going to try to fish in these tournaments. I'm not saying I'll never, obviously Lake Sinclair somewhere you pretty much have to have a motor. You go offshore, whatever. And so that's kind of where we are and what I'm going to be doing. And just to prove the point, I don't know how many people know this, but I won AOY last year. I never had more than 3 rods with me. I never had a fish finder. I had a bending branches paddle, and my kayak for 2 of the tournaments cost $699, and then for the other 2, it was that $899 light tackle. That's it, and I could still compete, and obviously not just compete, but do well and win AOY with it. So people can go get all the other stuff they want. I'm not saying I'll never have it. Like I said, it's all a tool, right, for the right job. I just want to take the right tool for the right application, and at some point, those may be the right application. But I feel like unless you're a pro in the Elite Series or Major League Fishing, a lot of fishing is marketing, and they try to sell us like you need to learn the Nico, you need to learn drop shot, you need to learn whatever, like every kind of rig there is. You know what I'm saying? Like you learn all of them. I don't feel like that's really feasible for the average Joe to learn them all, understand when to use them all, then and then understand what the bite feels like in all of them to good enough to confidently use it. You know what I'm saying? Like we get too deep into the weeds, and same goes with the electronics and all that stuff. You feel like, well, everyone's getting all this stuff. Like I got to learn this and that. It's like, no, I got into this because I wanted something to be simple because I wanted to get away from all that. So that's Drew Gregory. That's what I'm sticking to. But where I see it going is following a similar path to the bass boat world, in the sense that if the bass boat world puts a limit on the amount of screen inches you can have on your boat at one time, or they put a limit on how many units or whatever they do to limit it, which they will at some point, then we probably will. But until then, not. Now, motors, I like the fact that Hobie is paddle only,
So do I.
because it gives us a chance. We have one trail that's like that, and that's cool. Pedal or power only. And I like what I like about this is funny. People are like, "What do you like about Hobie?" I'm like, "I like the fact that it's paddle only." What do you like about KBF? I'm like, "I like the fact that it has motors," because I do like the fact that even, we're all still launching from. There's only so many launches you can launch from, even wild places, and this helps us get further away from each other and helps me be able to explore wild places and take a little bit of a break from my muscles when I'm worn out from some Hobie events from paddling so much. So I kind of like that. Plus, the motors do bring in more dollars to the sport, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have to use a motor. Josh Sharp just won the Invitational. He didn't have a motor. I mean, I didn't. I didn't need a motor, and I didn't use a motor at the let's see, when some of the KBF national championships I did well, and I didn't use a motor in all two of the 4 of my top 10. So I just feel like it's going to keep going that way, but it doesn't mean you can't compete. I don't mind. I honestly don't mind even two. I don't even mind 2 motors, but what I do mind is if only one motor can be in use at one time. It should never be 2 at a time, because that's dangerous.
Right.
But 1 at a time is like, if you're going to send people with 1 motor and you're going to tell them to go. I've gone as far as like 18 miles before in a day, and I'm out there. So if I'm way out there and I've got 1 motor and something happens to my prop, break a shear pin, my battery dies, something crazy, and I have extra battery or something, whatever. But you at least have another way to get back if you have a second backup. So I don't really even care if there's 2 motors, because once you've opened up motors, it really doesn't matter if it's 1 or 2. It really doesn't, as long as you can't be using both at the same time, and as long as your boats are able to handle that much weight and that many motors. They're built for that. And I don't even care about the electronics as much either until it's proven that technology, enough people have the chance to learn it, adapt to it, and use it to win. I don't really mind if there's a couple units on people's kayak. To me, it's just more complicated stuff that gets in my way, and I'm like, have at it, And it's going to open up more space on the bank and the other wild places where you don't necessarily need that stuff. So it's actually a win for everybody. Panoptics is a win for anyone who fishes wild places and creeks and rivers where you may not necessarily always need it on the bank. It actually is just going to disperse the pressure, because they're actually, with Panoptics and electronics, you're actually looking for the same thing I'm looking for. I'm looking for wild unpressured fish that I can find somewhere, and I wish every creek had big fish, but they don't. But I'm always searching for that magical place that does.
Right.
But that's what the guys offshore are doing with Panoptics, and they're finding wild unpressured fish that nobody else has found. And it's great, man. It's actually dispersing the pressure all around the lake now, and the fish have never seen bait. So it's kind of a cool thing in a weird way. But I do see it going to a limit at some point, and I see us having maybe not 2 motors ever, but just there's going to be limits put. Just like in the bass boat world, there's a 250 horsepower, right?
Right.
Everyone has a 250 on the Elite Series. No one has a 175, even though the limits. You know what I'm saying? And so that's going to eventually be the way it's going to be in kayak fishing. Whatever the limit is on motors, you're probably going to have a rig that has that limit. And then you're also going to have a kayak that's like that 699 ultralight I've got, that's 60, 50 something pounds, whatever. And for like little smaller backwaters where you won't need it. So it's kind of like you pick the right tool for the application, and that's it.
I think so. My thing is one of the reasons you get into a kayak fishing is because it's efficient, and that's what we really want to do. We want to be efficient at fishing. And so if I only need a kayak, that's awesome. But if I need a motor on it, I want to have that option. If I want to be able to put 6 rods because I need 6 rods, I want that. Whatever I can do to make me more efficient at catching fish. I think my only problem was when you start talking about a sport, the sport has to have it has to have limits. It has to have boundaries, because it's about competition at that point. I think I feel like my only problem. And like I said, I'm not saying what it should or shouldn't have. I'm just saying I just want a no shit like that there, and that's what we're doing. And we're not gonna. This is something we're not really gonna try to change in the next year, because you want your sport to have some kind of legacy and be consistent with whatever it is you're trying to do. And I see a lot of time it just keeps changing a little bit. I'm like, all right, well, what are we gonna do? Granted, I know we're still evolving. It's a new sport, but it's we got to decide what it is that what do we consider kayak fishing? If it's a motor, that's fine, but we can't just bump it up later on just because it's I feel like we just gotta have really, cause that's how most sports work, I think.
NASCAR has limits and limitations on things. They all follow. And I think once you have an elite series, which we will see an elite series of just the top 50 guys who are doing it more like full time, pretty much. I mean, I say full time, but I still like guys on the FLW tour, like in even Bass. They have jobs. They have other full-time jobs. They actually have that planned in their job. Like I know Kyle Weisenberger. I met him at ICAST. He still fishes the Toyota Series, I believe. He was a school teacher, and it worked out perfect with his FLW schedule, where he was able to get off all the days because a lot of the summer he's off, obviously, to fish FLW whole season, and he's a school teacher. So like, but when it gets to be full-time and there's an elite series for kayak fishermen, there needs to be, like you're saying, like it's professional. There needs to be these exact limits, standards, the pre-fish. Everything's got to get so exactly dialed in. Right now, it's still evolving or figured out. And the more important thing to me with all that is going to be we need to keep going to places like these tournaments need to keep scheduling and talking to tourism departments like about new rivers and reservoirs that these bass boat tournaments aren't going to, because
I agree 100%.
we're right on top of them, man, and we're swerving into their lane, and that's going to create friction. And we don't need to, because they're only going to those places because they're the lakes. Yeah, they have to. They got the tourism department money for it, and B, they're big enough reservoir that can handle that many boats. We don't have to. We could do a chain of lakes. We can do smaller 7,000-8,000 acre lakes, plus the rivers and creeks flowing into it. That's enough for us. And those tourism departments are, I mean, trust me, I ran a tournament trail for 10 years, are so easy to get money from. They're dying for somebody to come promote their waterways because the Elite Series, Major League Fishing, all those Toyota Series can't. So we can. There's 130 lakes out there that are 7,000 acres and greater, which is big enough for us. But yet we're still at the same big names that every other. And I'm not saying we shouldn't go to any of those. I'm not saying that, because a lot of them have great backwaters and vegetation and places you can't get in with a bass boat. And they do have money. They want to make sure their lake is known in the kayak community as well. But we need to take advantage of the other ones, because part of the fun for kayak anglers is also fishing, and for everybody is always fishing new water. It just gets old going to the same thing over and over. It's like, oh, so-and-so is going to go back to that spot and win again. So-and-so is going to go right back to there and win again. It's like, it's fun exploring new water on satellite imagery and kind of making your map, trying to figure out where you're going to fish. And that's the fun, man. So we need to take advantage of that, because otherwise we're going to have a collision with the bass boat world. And it's not going to be, we're going to be seen as maybe how, in a weird way, how fly fishermen see conventional fishermen. Sometimes there's a little bit of like, we're elitist, you guys are that, whatever. We want to be part of the same team with the bass boat world, growing it all together, rising all tides, because we're downloading their podcast, listening to their big podcast, right? And they're in more of the bass boat world. We're contributing. We're buying all the rods, the reels, and all the brands that are sponsoring those top anglers on the Elite Series. So they need to see that we are helping the sport as a whole, not we're in your way all over your tournaments. And again, I think sometimes we just see the names of those tournaments over and over in those big tournament trails, marketing them. So we just feel like those are the best lakes in the country. And really, they're the lakes that are big enough and had enough money to pay them to go there. That's really what it is. There's lakes that are way better than those lakes that we don't even know about yet. Hopefully we will.
I agree. That's one of the reasons why I did this is my first year of being a tournament director, because like I saw that same thing. I'm like, look, we've got all these bodies of waters. Why are we only going to Cayuga? Why are we only going to Oneida? It's like, I found some chain lakes where like it's almost to the point where like each angler could have their own lake if they wanted to. And that was the kind of stuff that I really wanted to see like in the sport, because I'm the same way. Like, what's the point of having a kayak if we're just going to go to the same places that all the big boats
are in? Yeah, I always say like that. I mean, then you'd just be taking the kayak out of kayak fishing. There's no point. We're just doing the same thing they are in plastic boats. We're different than them, so let's be different than them. Let's don't be the same thing, just in a plastic boat. So we're on the same page there, man. I agree. I think that's going to have to happen at some point, and hopefully it will. And we do some of that now. I mean, like Hobie, for example, fishes the Susquehanna River, and there's obviously no bass boats there. So there's some tournaments that we hit that are certainly. But even in terms of the boundaries, like making sure we have enough wild and rivers and creeks and places the boats can't go, even on these lakes, because otherwise we're just sitting there right in the lake with all the bass boats, and they're wondering like, what are y'all doing? Like, why are you in a kayak, man? Like, if you can't fish any of these the rivers and the creeks and the backwaters places, and if there's boundaries preventing us. But right now the rules are great. We're doing a good job, and there's enough good water that's still kayak only kind of water, and I just think we need to explore some new places that you just don't even know how bad they're wanting exposure. It's unbelievable. So, but yeah, man.
All right, man. Well, we'll wrap this thing up. Two more things. All right. what are you excited about 2021? Like, what lakes are you looking? Are you coming to Champlain? Because that's going to be the big one,
Heck
I think, for
yeah.
Hobie. So, like,
Heck yeah.
what does your season look like right now?
Well, let me get my
Uh-oh.
battery, plug in my battery real quick, just in case I die. I don't want to die on us. Hang tight. My lighting may stink here for a
It's
second.
all right. It's the end of the show, so we made it.
We made it, yeah, so far. But let me plug it in before it dies. It's at 12%, but it could go at any point. My battery's horrible. All right, there we go. Still with me?
Yep.
All right, guys. So, well, what was the first question?
The last, like, what are you looking at doing in 2021? What big tournaments? You already said you're going to Lake
Yeah,
Champlain. I'm excited about that. So
it's probably the number one lake on my list I'm most excited about this year because, obviously it is one of those big lakes that you see the pros going to all the time, but it's a little different in the fact that it's so humongous. They don't cover all of it. They don't hit all of it because they
no.
either go out of Ticonderoga or they usually go from Plattsburgh.
Yeah,
Is that right?
Plattsburgh.
Yeah. So usually go to Plattsburgh, so they never get down south. I mean, and it's so many cuts and sloughs. It's so much kayak-friendly water. It's a good choice when you're
Yeah.
talking about one of those tournaments that you see the bass boats at as well. So plus there's a lot of rivers and creeks that flow into it that's going to, I'm sure are going to be in balance as well. So that's what's really exciting about that tournament to me. And you can catch giant smallmouth and largemouth all at the same time. It's world class. I've never been there, so I'm excited. And then I'm really looking forward to La Crosse, Wisconsin, because I've never been there on the upper Mississippi. I was supposed to go last year, but that whole thing happened with COVID and all that stuff, and I just couldn't get back on the water until Susquehanna once I had everything settled down with the fam. And then, so I'm really excited about that one. This tournament down here, I was super excited about, looking forward to, because I've caught giants down here in Florida in the past, but didn't pan out. And then I'm trying to think. There was like one more really. I mean, obviously going back to Dardanelle will be special just because I won there, so I'm going to try to go back there and defend. But I'm excited about Eufaula for bass, and then hopefully the TOC if I qualify for that again. And then let's see. I'm excited for Louisville, even though it's not the greatest fishery for the Bass Classic. The Kayak Classic. I'm always just going to call it the Bass Kayak Classic. I don't care if they call it the championship. Whatever. Sounds cool to me. And so I'm excited about that one because it's going to be very hard, a very rough tournament. I feel like mentally it's going to be a lot of people are going to check out pretty quick when the jet skis, the party boats, and everything. It's just going to feel like there's not a fish in that lake when you're out there and it gets nuts. So and people are already like mentally checking out. Like I don't even want to go. And I'm like, all right, fine. Like someone still has to win. And like I follow golf too on the side. Like, it's like the only hobby I have, which I haven't done it in like forever, like a year probably. But I still follow it just because it's something away from fishing. So when they have the U.S. Open, the Masters, or the British Open, it's like really hot, high, rough, and fast, firm greens. It's super hard. I mean, they're the most fun events to watch because like someone still has to win, even if the final winning score is over par. Like someone has to win, right? Like, someone's gonna win. So I don't really care what the score is. I want to get out there and catch. I don't care if I catch 79 inches for 2 days in a row. If that's what's going to take to win, then I'll win that way. It'll be fun. It'll be a true test, a real test.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to that one too, man. But yeah, that's pretty much some of the ones I'm most looking forward to. I'm fishing East West Harbor on KBF. I'm probably fishing Pickwick. Excited about that too. Trying to think. I'm fishing Lake Murray. I fished there before. I live in South Carolina, so I know that one. I'm fishing Seminole. I'm excited about that this weekend. So I'm going to fish Hobie BOS on Seminole. But those are some of the ones that just kind of stick out just in my head. I know I'm fishing, like I said, 12 to 14 of them. So.
Well, cool, man. Like, we'll wrap this thing up there. I really do appreciate you coming on. Is there anyone you want to thank right now, or pin plugs, let everyone know they can follow you, and everyone that makes fishing easy for you?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's pretty simple. You guys just if you follow along at Drew Gregory Fishing on Facebook page or Instagram, YouTube. I pretty much just use like my Instagram is the best one. Follow along that. You'll probably see a lot about my sponsors along the way. But I'm blessed to have a big long list of them, so I'm not going to go through that whole thing now. If you just follow along, you'll see those products in action and use. And I mean, the way it works with me in the industry, and the way it should work with everybody, is I don't even approach somebody about a sponsorship unless I know their product, have used their product, believe in their product. It's something I already am using or anyway. And so it's super organic and just real. You know what I'm saying? Like when I'm promoting something and positive on something, it's because I believe in it and it's helped me out. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much it. I mean, obviously we've talked about Crescent, Real Tree Fishing here on my shirt. They are, which side here? They are, my headline sponsor for all I do. So I really appreciate them and their support. They obviously are also the sponsor of KBF's thing, and I don't even know if they do something with Hobie or not, but they're insanely into our sport, and so I really appreciate what they do in the sport and how passionate they are about kayak fishing. It's really cool to see them get into it. So big thanks to them, and thanks to all those major trails that allow us to get out there and do this, because they all work their butts off. And yeah, we have a few little gripes here and there. Not even gripes, it's just constructive things. Like you said, the sport's evolving, and I like to talk about that kind of stuff too, like you do. But I always like to stress how good of a job they're doing, and just super, super fortunate those guys are willing to take on that role, so that guys like me get to go fish and have fun and create memories that last a lifetime, like dragging through swamps and going under over 15-foot gators in little creeks and winning tournaments and AOIs. It's cool. So big thanks to those guys, and looking forward to a great 2021. Seeing you guys out there on the trail. Don't forget, sign up for fantasy. It's got a lot of fun, guys. Go sign up. And hey, here's what's cool, dude. You can make your own group for your podcast, your Dark Waters Kayak Fishing podcast. Your followers can have it, your own group. You can make it, and literally you could have just separate little bragging rights or give them a prize, whatever, for just the people who just keep track of your group. You just got to go make it, and then you give the link to everybody that they could sign up. But make sure if you ever do it, I'm not saying you're going to do it, but if you do, then you have to do it. But if you do, everyone has to sign up for your group, and then have to sign up for the public league in order to be in the public league as well. We're offering a lot of free prizes, so for the public league. So you got to sign up, a team in both of them. So, and you can pick the same 6 anglers. You can do different 6. You can hedge and pick 6 completely different anglers and one or the other. But you got to sign up for both, or you won't be in the main public group. So,
okay. Well, dude, I really appreciate you coming on. It was last minute, but it's been a fun conversation. Good luck this weekend, Seminole. Safe travels home. But look forward to talking to you again, bro.
All right, man. You too, man. Good job. Keep it up.
All right. Good night.
See ya.